Okay, you guys, we're back and we figured out our technical difficulties. I'm really excited to be here with you guys and to share this message. So many of you guys know that I and my colleagues and several of us have been working in this birth arena for a while. And our objective is really to help transform, change, and improve the quality of life and actually end the narrative of maternal and infant mortality, specifically amongst Black bodies, Black mothers, who rank currently the highest in the state of Arkansas. And so, or ranked third highest in the nation for infant and maternal mortality, which is a big statistic. And oftentimes we share the story of this tragedy happened to this mom or this tragedy happened to this baby, but we don't ever really get to hear the side of this tragedy happened, but I came back. And so today, Shanice Chantel is here to tell it all, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I just want you to introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are and just a little background. Like, I'm Shanice, this is what I do, this is what I love, just a little bit of that.
Well, thank you so much for the invite, Miss Nicole. I am so excited to be here, so excited to be able to speak with everyone. Again, I am author Shanice Chantel. I was born and raised right here in Central Arkansas. My background is really just the medical field. I have three little babies. I was a teenage mom, so I ended up going through life trials and tribulations at an early age, dealing with crisis and everything. And I really enjoy life, jumping out of airplanes, traveling, very, very adventurous. And I just take every day at a time. But my medical background, I was working at the Arkansas Heart Hospital, so I graduated from UMS. And then Arkansas Heart Hospital was my dream job, and that's where it all ended.
Mm, I love that. Thank you for sharing just a little bit about yourself. So your kids, you got three. What are their
Uh-huh.
ages?
So my oldest is 19. She's the one that I had at a young age. I have a 3-year-old who's going on 4 in August. And I have a 2-year-old that's going on 3 July 20th.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. So Shanice, we met through, you were searching some things out, and then you
Mhm.
found a news article or a news publication where they were talking about, um, the maternal mortality and like what Ujima Maternity Network is doing to help bring about resolution. Myself and a colleague, Sarita Hendricks, being part of the solution or, a fraction of the solution to some of
Right.
that problem by pursuing our licensure to become midwives here in the state of Arkansas.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about that experience. Like, you were searching. Why were you searching? I'm gonna
Okay,
like I'm
so
gonna tease this out a little bit. So I'm gonna be
I
like,
got you, girl. I got you.
okay.
Okay, so I just finished writing a book, right? And I knew that I had to get my story out there. So I realized that I must not be the only one. I realized that there's a problem here. The mistake that was made on me, and I knew that I had to do something about it. So I started researching to see where's there other women of color. Does the internet say anything about statistics in Arkansas? It doesn't have any organizations I can reach out to and everything. And I came across the article with you, Nicole, that shows about your mission and what you're doing. And I said, I have to link up. I have to lock arms and get my story out there and tell you guys about it. And hopefully I'll be able to be a voice to the voiceless, be able to inspire those mummies and pre-mummies, and also support the cause. No longer being a part of the problem, but to be a part of the solution that needs to take place. And so I am so happy that I came across you guys, and I realized that I didn't know it now that I was a statistics, like, that because I came from a medical background, so I never knew there was a problem within the healthcare system. It
Mhm.
never alerted me until it happened to me. And then once I started going through my recovery, I was like, no, this is a mistake. This could have been prevented. And that's when I just started to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
And then I started to learn there is a serious problem here.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I just started to educate myself. And girl, I found you, honey.
I love it. I love it. And I'm so excited too. So when we're talking about maternal and infant mortality, some of the things that we often hear and see is that 70% of all maternal deaths and infant deaths are preventable. And so when we think about 70% of the women, Black women specifically, that are dying, either at delivery or within 12 months of delivery, like postpartum, 12 months postpartum, that window of time, 70% of those deaths are preventable. And so I just want us to sit with that statistic and that number for a second and realize that that's a big number, but the other side to that is there's solution, there's resolution, there's hope, and there's opportunity. And part of that is doing what we're doing right now, getting the word out, because like Shanice, in your own words, you said, I heard about some of these things, but I never thought it was about me. You know what I mean? I never thought it could be me. And the truth is, it could be any one of us at any given time. And so we need to do the things that the education, the empowerment, the information, like linking arms, creating the village. We need to continue to do
Absolutely.
that work so that the story can be told and that the,
Yes.
the narrative can be changed. So we're not in this downy dumper like, oh my gosh, woe is me, there's no help, and like I'm stuck at the whim of whatever system that may or may not actually care for me. And the truth is, we're more than that and more capable than that. So I'm gonna stop talking, and
Absolutely.
I'm gonna let
Girl,
you get.
you just set the stage for me, honey. I am so ready to jump into this sauce, girl.
Get
Jump into
into it.
it.
I love it. Okay, come on. Let's tell us your
Okay, so
story.
so let's start with this. So, of course, I just told you guys that I had a dream job working at the Arkansas Heart Hospital. Right, I went on to maternity leave, and I ended up having the contractions. Everything was normal and everything, and I went to the hospital. I had plans. I carried this baby. I was a single parent, so the father at the time was not, available within the pregnancy. And I had plans on coming back to that 1 year old, almost 1 year old at the time, to celebrate her 1 year old birthday because I had the party, everything just planned out. So I'm coming to the hospital expecting to come home in a couple of days. So after I delivered the baby, I was very adamant that I wanted to breastfeed this baby. This is my last child. I have made a choice to get a tubal ligation. I want to breastfeed. And so right after I had her, I didn't have like that skin to skin. Immediately, I went into the operating room to get a tubal ligation, or some people say, got my tubes tied.
Mhm.
And so the procedures that are taking 20 minutes as expected, it took like an hour and a half. My family was very concerned because the baby was crying and they know I was so adamant about breastfeeding this baby. And they have decided to go ahead and bottle feed. And so they asked the doctor what was going on. They said, I'll be out in a little bit. I'm not aware what really is happening here. I just know it's taking a little longer than I was told and everything. And so I get out the operating room. I must start to go downhill because I was showing some signs that something was really, really wrong. I mean, you take a very, very healthy young woman. I was 33 at the time. Like I say, jumping out of airplanes, I'm climbing mountains. I'm always jumping back to after I had this baby. I'm jumping back to Shanice. And so I was starting to go downhill, and it was no alert to the doctors or the nurse that we have a healthy woman who's going downhill. She's fainting. Her blood pressure is high. There got to be a problem here, because usually there are risks behind every surgery from what I've heard.
Right.
But I wasn't told the risks. I didn't know that all of this was going to happen to me. And so they treated within 48 hours. They ended up giving me an NG tube and also a feeding tube because I refused to eat. I kept complaining that my abdomen was hurting. I was hurting really, really bad. Now, I'm not sure if I was complaining and getting on their nerves, or they just wasn't really hearing me, or I wasn't being loud enough.
Right.
And my family kept telling them that she's hurting. And so they thought that the NG tube was going to relieve the pain, but it did not. It just gotten worse, worse, worse. And so I made it to the 6th day. Now, on the 6th day, I start completely declining because I began to feel really, really hot, as though someone has poured gasoline inside of you, lit a match, and you're on fire from the inside out. Wow. I was so hot. They were, my parents pulled me towards the bin. I had ice. I had a wet towel. I was burning up, but the room was freezing cold. The doctor was cold. The nurses was cold. So my mom, my sister, is a part of the medical field. My sister, she's a hospice aide, so she has a little bit more of the medical background knowledge. Mm-hmm. My mother has been in housekeeping for so many, many, many years. But even to them, they knew that something was wrong with me. And so my sister said, I think Niecy has an infection. Niecy is a childhood name that my closest kin know me by. Mm-hmm. And my mom said, I think you're right. So she went to go talk to the nurse. The nurses stated that the doctor has went home and he was going to look into my theory the following day. Came back and told my mom. And my mom was very adamant to say, you get that doctor on the phone, you get whoever on the phone to come look at my daughter, come check her out. So I'm not sure if this was the very same doctor, it was a different one, but they end up scheduling a CT scan. And a CT scan was done stat, and based upon the CT scan, it showed that I had fecal matter. So immediately it prompted them that I need to go into emergency surgery. Like as soon as they came in, we prepping her for surgery right now. So I went into the operating room, and the doctor ended up cutting my abdomen open. They wasn't sure what they were going to find, but when they cut it open, from based upon my medical records, infection poured out. And as she started to clean me out, she noticed that a nicked bowel and also several abscesses. So I end up getting a wound vac, also several drainage. And then I went to CCU in order to recover. Well, cultures came back that I had 3 deadly infections. And then I began to vomit my bowels. And so they gave me like several antibiotics. And based upon my records, it says like I was really over medicated, which I probably was, but they're trying to go ahead and now fix the problem, but it's just too late, because on my birthday, I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, renal failure, and upper respiratory failure. So instead of getting cake and ice cream and celebrate my birthday like I always do, though I was diagnosed with illnesses, life-threatening illnesses. And then things got a little better. I finally made it to the floor. And then I was told that I had double pneumonia. And to me, I was like, well, I'm not going to survive double pneumonia, because I barely survived in the beginning. But my mom knew that she must have read my eyes to know that I was getting tired, to know that I wasn't going to make it to the following morning. But with my bed sores and being tossed and turned to different sides, I was able to beat pneumonia. Also, I walked a little bit with the help of my parents, beat pneumonia. And then I began to have nosebleed. It was like one thing after another. It's like a domino effect, one thing happened and just started just attacking everything else. So I ended up having nosebleeds. I never had a nosebleed before. So I ended up getting 2 blood transfusions, because I guess the blood was so much coming out. Things still gotten better, got worse, got better. As things got better, a nurse told me that if you tell a doctor that you are ready to go, because we're already a month in after expecting to go home within 3 days.
I'm going to pause you real
And with
quick. Shanice, I want to pause you because I need everyone to catch up to where we are. You have delivered a baby. You have and the surgery that you had after giving birth was a tubal, right? A tubal ligation. And then that surgery, which is typically like a 20-minute surgery, took about an hour and a half. And then your newborn baby was with your family, who was able to be in, I guess, the labor room, right? And it sounds like, was this in 2022?
This was in 2019.
19. Okay, just before
July 2019.
Okay. So we're coming up on an anniversary. Okay.
Right.
I know. I was like, wait, here we go. Okay. So then you are dealing with renal failure, heart failure, and congestive failure, right?
Well, renal, upper respiratory, because I had the collapsed lung and everything.
Okay.
And then heart failure.
Heart failure. And this was all a byproduct of the surgery that you had, the tubal ligation that happened right after, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And all of this time, 30 days, we're talking right now, you were in the hospital.
That's correct. I never did go home. And within the early stages, that I had the baby very healthy. And so I had to send the baby to her first time dad that, so you think about that. You got to you carrying a baby all this time. And the person that wasn't there during the pregnancy, you got to send the baby to, and who's also a first-time parent. Is different when you become a first-time parent than versus being in the game a little while longer and having multiple children. And so it was like that baby was being ripped from me. It's like that I had to give her up because I had plans on breastfeeding this child. I had plans on being there, and I'm the mother. And I feel that it's my fault. So I'm blaming myself in the mess. I'm crying. It's my fault. I decided to get this tubal ligation. So in the beginning, I'm blaming myself.
Right.
My 16-year-old, she was at home within all of this, taking care of that 1-year-old. And for me to be a teenage mom and for her to jump into those big shoes, that hurt. Yeah. And she also was affected because she didn't know, everything that was going on. And then she got the news about something real horrible happened. So she thought that she was going to be without a mom. But we're going to get to that point later. So, so now we are within the 30 days, right? We are within, I done gotten better. Someone has put a little word in my ear that since I feel like I'm ready to go home, to try to get every single doctor who is caring for me to understand that I'm healthy enough to go home, to be discharged.
Right.
So I started with the earliest one. The early doctor came in around about 4:00 to make his rounds. I started with him and I was like, I'm ready to go home. I can care for myself and blah, 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 blah. Ready to go to my babies. So he approved and I just started working them down all the way up to like 6:00 p.m. I had family coming in the midst and we finally got the news I'm about to go home.
Yeah.
And so my sister was there, was also praising God. We were laughing. Now we're talking about my sister saying that, so they gave me a discharge date, which is going to be the following day. And she said that, I love you, Niecy. I will see you in the morning, because she was planning on picking me up. So it was quite quick that I was hesitant about going home, and they had a board meeting and decided they were going to give me a discharge date, which is the following day. And so then we had to go through all of those things in order to be discharged. So she left me with, I'll see you later. Niecy, I'll pick you up in the morning. By the time she made it from Little Rock to Jacksonville, she gets a call saying that she needs to come back to the hospital right away, that I flatlined. And so also, with that understanding, she had to rush back knowing that her sister, that me and her is really, really close, just flatlined. So she had to drive really fast. So it's putting her at danger. And within all of this, the nurses ran into my room because I had a heart monitor on. So the nurses ran into my room because my heart was acting some type of rhythm. But by the time they came in, I jumped out of that funky rhythm and became normal. So they left me. So then within 15 minutes, they get an urgent call again, like, stat, get there right away. So now they're coming back again. It was like, I just left her 15 minutes ago. Coming in with the machines, all the doctors and everything. And they asked me, was I okay? And before I could respond, I heard them. But before I could even open my mouth or try to open my mouth, I completely coded. Like, it completely, everything just went still. And I can hear someone say, "Oh no, she just had a baby," and they call cold blue, and I can feel everything that was going on. But immediately, I went to a place that I was unfamiliar with, and I knew that I was no longer a part of my physical body. And I thought to myself, "That's weird. My body is here, but I'm someplace that I'm not familiar with." I'm like, oh, I just died. And it was so shocking to me because I've been fighting all of this time to survive. And all of a sudden I gave up and it was just so easy for me just to pass on. And so when I felt, and I was very nervous because I knew that I was gonna be living back my kids. I knew that I've given up and it was no longer in my hands. So immediately I began to feel comfort and joy and that everything was going to be okay. And I began to see this tunnel and began to gravitate in this tunnel towards this light as though I was I feel light as a feather. So I felt like I was floating to the light and the light was like pulling me as though I was floating. And I started to see futuristic colors and I started to hear sound and it was like, oh, wow, this is pretty neat. And in my background, that light means I'm about to meet Jesus. So I'm like, okay, I'm about to meet Jesus. That's cool, right? And so I didn't go to hell. I'm cool. Not that I had a bad background, but but I didn't even know even over there that even hell really existed. There was no pain. I didn't feel the 5 shocks that was going on at the time when I was transitioning. Because I was coding for 20 minutes. So we're talking about this whole period. Things was going on earthly in the hospital. Then we're talking about how things was going for me, being over in a transition, which is towards heaven, is my recollection. And so, as though I was going through this tunnel and made it to this light, I start flying towards prayers as though there were. I can just hear people just praying for me, and I was like, oh, all of this is for me, like it was gifts, and I can see it as though it was like maybe a text message, but I really didn't know who was praying, and everything was just happening so fast. And so my final arrival was in this garden. It had many flowers, but it was one particular flower that was reaching out to me that was really pulsating. And it was the only flower that I was mesmerized with. So it was like it was God just speaking to me, was downloading things, so was telling me my purpose was. It was like a rebirth happening here. And within this time of me going over there, my sister made it to the hospital because I'm completely gone at this point. She made it to the hospital, went into the room and say, what happened? The doctor said, what you mean what happened? She coded. And they thought that my sister was a nurse because she had her scrubs on because she's a hospice aide. So immediately when she saw that my eyes were bugged out of my socket, she saw all the machines, our doctors, she fainted into shock. She didn't expect to go into the room and see me like that because she know me as being independent. She know me as talking and laughing and smiling and being up to beat. And so she fainted, and then she contacted my parents, and then they moved them to a room as I was getting stable. So I had these 5 shocks to go on. They put a lupus device over me. So while the lupus device is doing the CPR, the doctors and nurses is doing everything they can to bring me back. And finally, I came to. I didn't really realize that I was alert But they put me in an induced coma to take the brain off my heart and my brain, because they didn't know if I was going to be brain dead. So they put me in an induced coma for 48 hours. And once they did that, they also gave me some medication to wipe out the trauma. So when I finally jumped out of the coma, or they brought me out of the coma, I asked my parents, like, what happened? And it was like, you died. I was like, no, I didn't. And then so I went on to ask my sister, because I'm always bugging and talking to her and telling her stuff over and over again. I said, Latia, what happened? She said, Nisa, your heart stopped for 20 minutes. And so with that said, they were thinking maybe she got some type of brain injury, because she's asking us the questions over and over again, like she don't realize that this has happened to her, which I didn't. I didn't really know that I was still here. And so once they did that, I end up getting better. And so 2 days before I was scheduled to go home, I was thinking that I was healthy enough to go to the bedside commode. I was going to get up, and every time I use that call light, they take forever to get there. So I was going to use my own strength to get on that commode. And by the time I raised up, I completely fell through the table and hit my head on the floor. And my dad, he was sleeping at the time, and I know he was tired, so I wanted him to rest. So I didn't want to say, Daddy, can you help me to the commode? I was just thinking that maybe, they were going to come, and I didn't want to wake him. And so end up falling through the table. They end up doing an MRI to see if I had any blood leaking, which I didn't. But with that said, I end up being discharged. We're on 54 days now. So being discharged on September 11, 2019. I was discharged and I went home. Within 24 hours of me going home, I started having stroke-like symptoms. So I started spluttering and slobbing, and I couldn't walk and I couldn't talk. So immediately my family was thinking that I was having a stroke. And so they took me to the hospital, and I was like, I'm not going back to the hospital that I was at, because I was there for 54 days, or I was there, a couple of months, and they made a mistake. So I'll go to a different hospital. And just when I thought it was over, so I made it to a different hospital, and that particular hospital said that they kept me for 3 days and said that I had volume loss, which is also stroke-like symptoms. And they had to do a swallowing test because I could not swallow. And then they sent me home, and I had the home health nurses and everything to help me throughout their recovery. Well, when they sent me home, the day that they sent me home, they called my dad back, because he was the point of contact as far as speaking for me, because I couldn't talk on the phone or anything. And they said she has to come back because coach revealed she has E. coli. And so I just started crying. I'm like, I just left the hospital. It's just one thing after another, And they said, well, you have to go back, Shanice, because E. coli is contagious, and, we don't want to get it and stuff like that. So another doctor ended up calling before we left and said we could treat her for E. coli at home. And so I got treated for E. coli at home. And then everything started as far as the recovery. I had to do, the nurse had to come here every day, 3 or 4 times a day in the beginning, to do the wound vac changes, the dressing. They had to teach me and my dad about the battery, about the Millerone battery, which is an IV for my heart. If that was to run out, it's going to stop my heart completely. They also had to do, we had to learn about the life vest and the batteries. I couldn't shower. I couldn't, I couldn't get myself off the commode. Like, I literally didn't have the strength to get myself up. And it took a while for my bowels to actually get normal. And so from there, I end up from the life vest end up exploding on me, and the gel touched the wires, which also touched my back, and it burnt me. So it was just another thing that happened throughout this process, right? And so then after that was replaced, I ended up getting a defibrillator December the 4th of 2019. And that was quite scary, because now I'm going back within the ER, not knowing if I'm going to die or flatline or anything. The lights is freaking me out, thinking that there's going to be another mistake. But I made it through that. And so once I was still going through the healing process and everything, one night I was laying in bed, and I was looking at television, and this lady was having cardiac arrest. So they was doing CPR, and immediately I started seeing flashbacks. So I didn't even know about what I've seen until we're talking about months later, until I saw this woman was getting CPR, and then I started seeing flashbacks of my experience of my trauma. And then I began to feel depressed and anxiety and be closed in. I began to feel upset that all of this has happened. And in the midst of that, I'm fighting against individuals who looking at that I'm not a good parent no more. And I have to be able to prove that I am. So I had to take on that newborn baby. So I had the newborn baby within my arms. And within one arm, the other arm, I had the IV Millerone. I had the life vest during the time. So I had still had to jump into motherhood. And that was pretty tough, trying to heal and everything, and heal mentally and physically, and then still having to be a mother. But thank goodness I still had my mom, my dad there. My dad did move in with me to just to help me with the babies and to help me around the house and the things that I could no longer do on my own. And so with these flashbacks, my dad suggested that I see a psychiatrist because it's gotten so deep that I couldn't cope with what has happened, right? And so I contacted a counselor. I started off with a counselor or a therapist who recommended that I see a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist heard my story, and I had several sessions with her. Of course, she diagnosed me with the PTSD and anxiety depression, and I started on some meds for that. Never had any type of mental illness. I was very healthy. Never was on 20 pills that I had to take, remember to take. And so from there, she suggested, she was like, Shanice, every time you come to me and you talk about your story and talk about your day-to-day life, something new come about. As you talk, you expressing, and I want you to write a book. This is going to be a session for you. By the time you come back, you better have something written, right? And so I said, okay, I'm gonna just write everything that took place. And I came home that very day, and I just started writing, just to put it all out. I didn't have any type of organization with it. I just started writing, and everything just started coming to me. And so then I end up, after I started writing, I came to her and said, guess what? I written a book. And then she was just so in awe that she wanted to do the forward. So she did the forward for me because she saw me initially, how I was looking, how I had the chords, my mindset and everything. So she did the forward. I made contact with the publisher, and she also coached me through all that writing process, and now the book is live. So it was just one thing after another. I mean, it was just so much stuff that I was dealing with that now I can see with therapy, I can see that it wasn't my fault. Like, I understand that mistakes happen. But to me, I feel that the nurses is the eyes and ears. Like, if they was the eyes and ears within the operation room, someone should have known that something happened within an hour and 20 minutes, and a surgery only takes 20 minutes. Someone should have known that we're taking a healthy human being and now she's declining. Let's see what is the underlying, because there's a risk factor to every surgery. And we know the risk to the surgery. I didn't know the risk, but they knew the risk. So I was showing the signs. So if they would have found out within those 24 hours that, hey, she's showing signs that she got a leaky bowel, a nicked bowel, let's go ahead and do the CT within the 24 hours. They would have found the problem. I would never had all of these organ failures, these major organ failures. I would still be able to be there for my children, all three of my children. I wouldn't have to go through therapy. I would never have a loss of work, because you're taking someone who's had a career. Now you disabled them. I'm not unable. I'm just disabled. You disabled them to the fact that they had to learn how to walk, learn how to talk, and she's young, and now she's being judged, and now she has no way or where she's going to go, because now the old Shanice has passed on. I'm living each day to figure out who the new Shanice is. All I know is my psychiatrist wanted me to write a book, put everything that I went through into a story, I had my medical records and everything, and I did that. And so now it's to the point where I'm just telling my story to inspire whoever I can about the problems that we are facing. I feel that if I was a different form or shade, that my injuries probably would have been looked into early on. I feel that I was complaining, but I wasn't being heard. If I had known that the risk factors do exist, I probably would have said to myself, being in the medical field, I have an infection. Like, something is going on here. I would have been my self advocate. So I think that it's so important to be informed early on about everything that's happening with yourself, to be in the loop about what's happening within your city, within your state, and I didn't even know that at the time that this was a serious, serious problem. But the mistake she made was I survived to tell about it. And I was supposed to survive 6 days with having all of these deadly infections and throwing up the bowel. I mean, just throwing up the bowel, just thinking about that, it takes me back to that taste, to that smell. And it takes me back to the point also to the smell of looking into my abdomen and seeing a huge hole. Now we're talking about the before Shanice wanted to show off her stomach, belly piercings. I was so confident. Now that I look into my belly, I have a huge hole, and now that it took away a lot of my confidence, and I just got that back. Just got that back because I figured that my scars is now my story. It's now my truth. It's now the miracle that I can share to everyone, because throughout being in a hospital, you get so tired of being poked around. You get so tired of being changed in a 10 and having bowel movement on you and urine on you, and people just, all these tests. I had about 9 surgeries. So you get tired. So eventually, like, life got to be better, right? This can't be the way I'm going to end. So I told God, I said, God, now you said that if I have faith in a mustard seed, that you're going to bring me out. And also I said that by your stripes, I'm claiming that by your stripes, I am healed. You got to do something. And so with that said, I knew that he was going to do 2 things. Either he was going to bring me closer to him and I was going to die, or I was going to go home with a lot of things that I had to deal with day to day that I never had to deal with. And so he brought me the day before I was scheduled to go home. I can't imagine if I was sent home the time that I wanted to go home. See, it's not about things that I wanted to do. It's all about God's time, because if he would have obeyed sending me home, like I wanted him to send me home, I would have flatlined at home for 20 minutes, would not have had that immediate care, and I wouldn't be here talking to everyone on today. And so he brought me closer to him to show me that he had a place for me, to show me that it's more to life than what I'm seeing or what I'm used to. It's a beautiful place. It's no worry. There's no pain. This is where my family's at. This is where love is at. I never felt so much love in my life. And I still don't feel it. There's not a comparison. Even when I fall asleep, which I'm afraid to fall asleep, got plenty of medicine to make me fall asleep. I don't take them because I'm scared to fall asleep. Not that I'm afraid to die, because I know where I'm going and I know that place, but it's because I know the responsibility that I have here. I want to see my babies grow. They look up to me. My little Naomi says that, Mommy, I love you. You're so pretty every day. Happy Mother's Day. It was a particular Mother Day, just one particular day. She said Happy Mother's Day every day because she knows that I'm a good mom. And she wants me to remind myself that I'm a good mom. And so he showed me that, and he ended up not only so he took me and brought me back. I couldn't bring myself back. 20 minutes of being gone, like, who, that really don't happen too often, right? And be able to live and tell about it. It's just happened 2 years ago. And so brought me to him, brought me back. But why did he bring me back? I didn't know at the time that I had a purpose until I started writing the book and I started talking. And I started talking to a lot of people who I started feeling that I was being healed emotionally. And then he sent me home. So I had the best of both worlds, really. He brought me to him, and then he sent me home. So he didn't give me a choice. He just gave me both of them, and it's just pretty amazing now. And I'm just learning. I'm just learning what this life is all about. I'm learning who Shanice is. Every day there are ups and downs, of course, but is no more harder than what I already been through.
Right, right.
And so, but I know it has to be a reason for me to continue to go on and tell my story. That way, it will help another mommy. We can be proactive into helping another mommy. She won't have to face what I had to face, and the system wouldn't be as broken as it is now. Yeah. It has to be a solution. Like, yeah. It got to be a problem, and I don't want to be looked at as a problem. I want to be looked at as a solution. And that's maybe the reason why I was brought back, because a lot of mommies died. If I was someone older, I probably would never made it, because we're talking about all of these diseases within a month's time. Yeah. And your body physically is just so it wouldn't be able to withhouse all of that.
Yeah. Shanice.
So that's my story, girl. I'm sorry about getting all,
I know. I'm like, look at my little sponge. I just want to thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for taking the time to share the story, and then like recognizing your purpose in that is to share the story to prevent, right? So this is a story of a woman who gave birth to her child and then had a surgery afterwards, which is a tubal. And the surgeon that tied her tubes also nicked her bowels. And in nicking her bowels and not communicating that happened, tried to ultimately kind of dismiss it. And then the cascade of issues just came and flooded, and death was a part of that. But God brought her back for so many different reasons. And some of that reason is why she is here sitting before you right now today, why we are connected today. And your story needs to be told. And women need to know, families need to know. I mean, there's so many layers in your story that like literally could be picked apart, and like we just spend an hour a day on this piece of your story, the motherhood component, or the feeling guilty component, the surgery component, the crying out component of like, I need help, you guys, like something's going wrong. And the way we trust in the medical care community to actually care for us. And sometimes, and I don't want to say all the time, but I will say sometimes, and a lot of sometimes, accidents happen. There's a lack of care, a lack of concern. If I can just cover this up, and then we dehumanize. And so we separate the humanity from this woman or this individual that's before them, right? Like, I don't want to get sued as a provider. I don't want to get whatever. So then we do the steps to cover it up. And I know, like, firsthand, nurses and doctors will cover up different things. And so I just need a breath. I'm like,
I was just thinking of this as you were speaking as well. So remember me telling you that I work with heart patients, right?
Yes.
Imagine my medical field working with heart patients. Okay, I poured in heart patients. I was a very good employee. I loved my job. And now it turned around where the same place I worked, I had to get cardiac rehab. So now I am a heart patient, but the system that I love so much failed to protect me.
Yeah.
This deep. You miss so much time with your kids and throughout life and working from 9 to 5 and doing everything you can within the system that you love. And then when it comes to your time of dying need, there's nothing in place to protect you. There's nothing in place to give you the quality of medical treatment that you deserve, like the next mommy.
Yeah.
It should be equal treatment cross board, because how is it possible if the mommy is not surviving and the baby is not surviving? That means we're not going to have any new inventions. It's not going to be the next president years down the line. We killing off these especially colored babies. You know, and it's not gonna, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It just makes more sense that we make sure that we give the mother, because we already have a hard time throughout 9 months pregnancy of caring for the baby and making sure that baby comes through healthy. But
Right.
it's also enough now to having to care for yourself in a predicament that happened to me. And so
Yeah.
it's a lot. And so something needs to be done to take that emotional turmoil off us mommies.
Yeah. Yeah. And so let's talk about solutions really quick. And then kind of some of the things that I heard was you were not heard, you were not seen, you were not valued, your experience when it was dismissed. And so what Ujima Maternity Network really exists to do is create the space where mothers can be seen, can be heard, can be valued, can be understood. And then providing advocacy, support, and bringing that along through doula care, through home birth care, all of those things. Like that's what we're doing, showing up every second Saturday. And I'm really excited for the upcoming maternity community outreach that we have. We have that every second Saturday. And this coming second Saturday, guess what? We're bringing Shanice to the table, you guys. I'm really excited about that. So every session or every second Saturday when we have our community outreaches, we have a sister circle. And then at noon. So at 12 o'clock, we start a sister circle. And so all of the women that come, maybe they're pregnant, maybe they're postpartum, maybe they're somewhere, whatever. Maybe they're like, I just want to sit around the table. They come and we sit and we have a sister circle and we talk about things like issues maybe that have been a struggle in the healthcare system or their personal experience or the family dynamic, whatever it is. So again, creating space where women, Black women specifically in this particular arena, can be seen, can be heard,
Yes.
can be valued, can be understood, can link arms with, and provide that space of emotional healing so that we can enter the world like strong and powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a place that has to be where we are weak, where we are vulnerable, where we know that somebody's got our back and I don't have to do it all. I don't have to have it all together. I don't have to understand it all. But somebody is watching my 12, my 6, my 3, and my whatever, 9. Like somebody is around watching and watching those things. And this is where doula support has been very instrumental. This is where home birth has been very instrumental. Now, everybody is subject to error. Every single person is subject to error. But the key is being responsible enough, caring enough to speak the truth, and when you do err, come forth with that so that this mom, this family, this individual doesn't have to suffer even more because we're trying to cover stuff up, right? So that's the first thing. A second thing or the third thing, I don't really know. Shanice has a book that she's talked about. You guys, this journey has taken her from a place of being independent, self-sufficient, working, having children, doing all of this, to adjusting her life wholly, to adjusting her entire life. And so, Shanice, I want you to put a link in the comments for your book and your website so that you can get connected with Shanice. You can order her book, you can read her story, you can share her story and elevate her platform so that women know that this is unacceptable and we don't have to continue in this cycle. So most of us think, I know it happens, but it's not me, right? It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. You know what I mean? Like it could be. And so we often hear like, I love my doctor. My doctor's amazing. Da, 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 da. Like, okay, I get it. And I get that your doctor's amazing. But also, like, there's more to it than that. You're not the only person that that provider is caring for. So now it's time to take and own the responsibility of your own body. And let's figure out what you need to have and experience the level of health and well-being to allow you to be successful and to live, and not only just live but have a quality of life that is like beautiful, because our quality of life definitely impacts how we're able to show up in the world. And so I'm
Oh,
excited.
Nicole, I just thought about something else, girl. Your stuff is just coming to mind, honey.
Whoa.
Speaking of, I got two things to mention. As far as the doctor go, as we say, mistakes happen, right? And so, but based on a mistake, the doctor has said the reason possibly because of mistake is because I was obese,
Oh,
which
yep.
is I just had a baby. So how large was I supposed to be? And if I was at a level of weight, this surgery, so why wasn't that surgery canceled? Why was it pushed forward since I was quote quote obese? Mm-hmm. And also, I also just thought about not only did all of this stuff happen to me, but I have memory loss. And all the stuff that happened in my past, I can remember. But we're talking about the day-to-day thing. We're talking about driving, and all of a sudden your mind go blank to where you're supposed to be. We're talking about leaving the door open. We're talking about having to put everything within your cell phone, your day-to-day activity, whether it's groceries, whether it's appointments, so you won't forget anything. We're talking about just carrying on the conversation as though I'm talking with you, and then all of a sudden my mind go blank.
Yeah.
And we're also talking about as though that like I'm talking with you, this is when I flatlined. So there was no signs to indicate that I was going to die, that I was going to cold within that particular time.
Right.
And so it's so much stuff that happened throughout this period that it's like you said, it's a lot of stuff to hit.
It is.
And so I just thank you so much for getting on time. But also, look, you guys see this. This cover of this book. Okay, so you heard my story, right? This particular cover. Remember, I said I was in a hospital. Me and this little baby, which is her name is Naomi Grace. And if people is familiar with the name Naomi, her name was put in my womb within the first trimester, and I didn't know that I needed that Naomi Grace from the book of Ruth in order to get through, because at that particular time I was saying, God, where are you? And I was looking around me like I didn't know if I was going to survive this. But this little baby who kept coming to the hospital, even though she cried, seeing her mommy with all these cords, and I'm telling my mom, this baby don't know me anymore. My mom said this baby will always know you, which she did once I made it home and stuff. This particular picture is our celebration. We celebrate, her birthday is August the 18th, mine is August 16th. So because I missed her first birthday and we were doing Princess Jasmine, I'm like, we're going to use this Princess Jasmine theme that we were going to do at the beginning. We're going to relive our birthday. And that's what we did. So when our birthday came around the following year, we ended up taking a photograph, and now she's the face of the new book, which is called God Within a Lily. And God Within a Lily is actually the title because I saw that lily flower as though whenever I was transitioned. So, honey, that's the Shanice and Tell story, girl. And you guys can look my website. I'm gonna go ahead and put my plug in. My website is www.shaniceChantel.com. You guys can contact me there. You guys can also purchase the paperback of this book. It's in hardback as well. The digital copy just went live on last night. All the social media platforms is author Shanice Chantel, and my email is theshanicechantelstory@gmail.com. Also, if you want to contact me, it's 612-PURPOSE. So if you do 612-PURPOSE, which is 787-7073, I think that's what it is. I may be confused on it, but 612-PURPOSE.
Type this stuff in. I'm like, whoa. Okay. Your email is the Shanice Chantel at gmail.com.
Shanice Chantel Story.
Shanice Chantel Story. Okay.
Mm-hmm. At gmail.com. And so I would also like to, share you guys' story with me. If you have a story, everyone should have a story. Let's link up. Let's celebrate. Let's help find a solution for all of this stuff that went on and everything. And like I said, that phone number is available. It's 612, and you dial the words purpose, you're going to be able to reach me. And so, girl, that's my plug, honey.
I love it. 612 purpose. So, you guys, if you are interested in connecting with Shanice and like sharing her story or just learning more or talking more, being a support, being a community, like I put all of the things in the feed, so you'll see it in the comments. If you want to just meet her in person, you can support her by purchasing her book. You can also support by signing up for the Ujima Clinic that is scheduled for July 9th.
Yes.
Go on the website July 9th and register, and then you'll be able to meet Shanice in person, hear her story in person, and we'll do some Q&A there. I'm assuming you'll have some books available at that time.
Absolutely, you know it.
Perfect. She'll have some books available at that time and other ways that you can support her, but be a part of the solution. And so thank you, Shanice,
thank you so much
for sharing your story. I love it. I love you. And I'm so thankful to God that he's brought.
You are so amazing, Nicole. I am so glad that we met each other as destined, honey.
Yes, yes. Because we in these streets.
Yeah, for God, that's my trademark. Yeah. Look, you guys, there is a why Nicole just said, look, there's a movement going on, okay? If you see me in these streets, where no matter where I'm at, I'm in these streets for God. That is actually my trademark. Hashtag I'm in these streets for God. You guys welcome to use it. Let's let the world know we're in these streets, helping mommies, helping pre-mommies, helping anybody within this hair care problem and everything, and making a solution. We in these streets.
I love it.
For a reason.
I love it. I just shared that all out. I was telling Shanice yesterday, I was like, I say all the time, I'm in these streets, but I haven't been in these streets for God. I haven't said that. And so now I'm like, yep, you up, we in these streets for God. We doing this.
I may be getting my hair done, but I'm in these streets for God. Because you may have an interview or something. Right. Or a book signing or something.
Right. Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you guys for tuning in. Please feel free to share this story, comment, show up. And I'll put the link to register for clinic in the comments as well. We'd love to see you there. Bye, you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.